The first bell faded into the lower mountain, but its pressure remained. Outer disciples who had been whispering a moment before tightened their robes, straightened their backs, and forced expressions of respect onto faces still swollen with sleep. The testing square lay halfway between the outer quarters and the inner mountain gate, high enough to let the poor see where they were not allowed to live, low enough to remind them that seeing was not entering. Lin Fan stood near the edge of the crowd. The stone beneath his shoes held the night's cold. Thin morning mist crawled along the flagstones, cut apart by the ankles of gathering disciples. Above the square, the peaks of azure cloud sect rose in layers, outer slopes of gray wood and rough stone, inner ridges with tiled courtyards, elder peaks hidden behind pale cloud. Sunlight touched the upper roofs first, then moved downward by inches, as if even light had to respect rank. The spirit root pillar stood at the center of the platform. It was black, tall, and polished to a dull sheen, with silver veins running beneath its surface. Those veins formed a testing array that had not changed for hundreds of years. Place a hand on the pillar. Circulate a breath of chi. Let the array draw a response from the spirit root and convert it into light. Low-grade roots gave weak, muddy colors. Mid-grade roots gave stable light. High-grade roots made the veins ring. Earth-grade roots forced the elders to stand. Heaven-grade roots made sects bargain like merchants before a fresh vein of ore. Simple. Public. Cruel. The test did not measure destiny. It measured the sect's willingness to invest. Lin Fan looked at the pillar without reverence. In his first life, he had approached it with a mouth too dry to swallow. He had wanted proof that he was not worthless. He had wanted the world to be fair enough that effort could be seen. The pillar had given a weak green glow, and laughter had filled the square before the light even faded. That boy had walked away believing the test. Lin Fan remembered him as one might remember a poor tool. Useful only after being broken and reforged. Elder Gu stood on the raised step before the pillar. His gray robe was clean without being ornate. A jade tally hung at his belt. His hair was bound by a plain wooden pin, and his eyes moved across the crowd with the flat practicality of a man assigning value to raw material. Two stewards stood behind him, each holding a bamboo register. Names will be called according to outer quarter order, Elder Gu said. Step forward. Place your right hand on the pillar. Do not force more chi than instructed. Do not use talismans, pills, hidden needles, blood methods, charm powders, false roots, or any other foolish trick you were stupid enough to believe would escape detection. A nervous ripple moved through the crowd. Elder Gu's gaze swept over them. Anyone caught cheating will lose 1 year of rations and 3 months of cultivation chamber rights. Anyone who damages the testing pillar will lose both hands before compensation is discussed. The nervous ripple died. Lin Fan noted the wording. Not execution. Not expulsion. Loss of hands first, compensation after. Azure Cloud sect remained true to itself. Resources mattered more than bodies, and bodies mattered only if they could produce resources. Good. A sect honest in its greed was easier to use than a sect drunk on righteousness. Zhang, who stood several paces ahead, surrounded by his 2 followers and a handful of outer disciples who liked to stand near whoever seemed strongest that week. He had been flexing his right hand since leaving the quarters. The numbness Lin Fan had left in the tendon was gone, but the memory of it remained. Every few breaths, Zhang, who glanced back with the expression of a man trying to decide whether he had imagined fear. Lin Fan did not look at him for long. Small threats deserve small portions of attention. His true concern was the body. He let his breath sink 1 inch lower, not into deep circulation, only enough to examine the meridian response. The channels under his ribs tightened at once, resisting even that slight movement. Impurity gathered in 3 places: the left lung channel, the lower dantian gate, and the root junction beneath the navel where the spirit root connected to flesh. The poison residue was exactly where memory said it would be. Cheap sect rations had done it slowly. Not deliberate poisoning aimed at Lin Fan specifically. That would have been too flattering. Outer kitchens diluted spiritual grain with low-quality root powder to stretch supplies. Most disciples suffered only stomach pain and slower chi absorption. A few with weak or unstable roots accumulated residue in the root junction. In his first life, Lin Fan had been one of them. The pillar would see only the surface. Low-grade would root, dull and contaminated. The crowd would laugh. Elder Gu would dismiss him. Zhang Hu would feel safe. Then the day would proceed according to the old path unless Lin Fan chose otherwise. He would choose otherwise. But not by showing too much. The forbidden diagnostic method stored in his memory core was called by several names across several dead eras. The version he retained was stripped to its bones, used the testing array's pull as a needle, guided inward before the pillar completed classification, scraped the hidden residue from the root junction, and forced the spirit root to reveal its unpoisoned response for one breath. It did not truly reforge the root. Not yet. It exposed the path of reforging and removed enough obstruction to change the public result. Done poorly, it would rupture the root. Done with insufficient pain control, the body would collapse. Done too well, the pillar might show more than he wanted. Lin Fan had no intention of letting his sect elder see everything. The observer's colorless ring remained silent at the edge of his consciousness. He did not reach toward it. Let it watch the lower mountain mist and the black testing pillar. Let it watch children wait to be priced. The existence beyond the world had returned him to a small stage, but small stages had clean lines. It would learn that the first reversal did not need thunder. A steward opened the first bamboo register. East lower quarter, row 1, he called. Step forward when named. The first disciple walked onto the platform with stiff shoulders. He was a round-faced boy in a robe too large for him, probably borrowed from an older cousin. His hands shook as he touched the pillar. The silver veins brightened faintly. A dull yellow glow rose halfway up the stone and stopped. Low-grade earth root, the steward announced. The boy's face collapsed. Elder Gu did not look at him twice. Next. The boy stumbled down the platform. No one laughed loudly yet. It was too early. Half the crowd still feared receiving the same result. Lin Fan watched the reaction more than the test. Disappointment spread faster than joy. A low result at the beginning made everyone behind it feel the blade near their own throats. Those who had mocked low-grade roots yesterday now prayed quietly not to join them today. Another disciple stepped forward. Weak blue light. Low-grade water. Next. Muddy red. Low-grade fire. Next. Faint green. Low-grade wood. The crowd shifted, restless and afraid. Zhang Hu snorted. Trash everywhere. He said it loudly enough for others to hear and softly enough to pretend he had not aimed at anyone specific. A few disciples laughed, grateful for the chance to stand on the side of contempt instead of fear. Lin Fan's expression did not change. The thin girl he had noticed on the path, Lin Ro, stood 2 clusters away. She looked at the low-grade disciples leaving the platform and pressed her lips together. She wanted to comfort someone. She did not. The outer mountain punished kindness when it lacked strength behind it. She would learn that. Perhaps painfully. The register continued. Names rose and fell. Lights flickered and died. The square warmed slowly under the sun, but the disciples seemed colder with each weak result. A boy with mid-grade wind root drew the first true murmur. His friends slapped his shoulders. His face lit with relief so intense it looked almost like grief. Elder Gu's eyes paused on him for half a breath before moving on. Half a breath. That was the price of mid-grade talent. Lin Fan stored the measure. The sect's hunger had thresholds. To move unnoticed, stay beneath them. To gain resources, step just above them at a chosen time. To draw protection, become expensive enough to damage. To draw danger, become rare enough to covet. Today, he needed attention without ownership. Enough abnormality to shake the old judgment. Not enough to invite immediate control. The second bell rang from the inner mountain. Its tone was cleaner than the outer bell, carried down by formation lines hidden in the air. Elder Gu glanced toward the upper peaks, then then back to the register. A faint crease appeared between his brows. Lin Fan followed the glance. Someone above was watching. Not closely. Not for him. The spirit root test was a routine outer affair, but sometimes inner disciples or minor elders observed to select servants, future retainers, or cheap investments. In his first life, Lin Fan had been too consumed by humiliation to notice. Now he felt the layered attention like faint pressure against the square. One from the eastern pavilion. One from the second ridge. One brief sweep from higher still, indifferent and gone. None worth reacting to yet. Zhang Hu looked back again. This time, Lin Fan met his eyes. Zhang Hu's jaw tightened. He held the stare for 2 breaths before turning away with a rough laugh. Wait until your turn, he muttered. Lin Fan heard him. So did the disciples nearby. The first open mockery of the morning had found its target. Whispers began to gather. Lin Fan stood quietly among them, letting the square build the shape of the old humiliation around him. Humiliation had architecture. It needed height, witness, repetition, and permission. The testing platform gave height. The gathered disciples gave witness. Zhang Hu supplied repetition, turning yesterday's bruise into this morning's entertainment. Elder Gu's indifference gave permission, because in Azure Cloud sect, silence from above was often read as approval below. Lin Fan saw the structure and did not step away from it. Structures could be collapsed more cleanly when one allowed them to finish forming. Around him, the outer disciples arranged themselves according to instinct. Those with uncertain results yet to come pretended not to mock too loudly. Those already tested low-grade tried to laugh as if Lin Fan's expected failure would place someone beneath them. Those who had done well watched with a softer contempt, already practicing the distance of future superiority. No one needed to be instructed. This was how sects trained people before giving them techniques. They made every disciple participate in judgment, then called the result order. A boy laughed at another boy's weak root because tomorrow he might need to accept someone laughing at his own. Cruelty circulated like cheap spirit grain. Everyone swallowed some. Everyone passed some on. Lin Fan's first life had been shaped inside that circulation. He remembered standing in the same square with fingernails digging into his palm, hating the laughter so much that he forgot to study it. He had thought the mockers were the enemy. Later, after climbing through corpses in sect wars and immortal tribunals, he understood that most mockers were only weather. Annoying when unprepared, irrelevant when one owned the mountain. Zhang Hu, however, was not merely weather. He was a small pressure point. Through him ran several useful threads: outer disciple violence, steward corruption, ration theft, training yard privilege, and the sect's habit of ignoring damage until value appeared. Press him correctly, and those threads could tighten around people above him. Lin Fan glanced once toward the meal hall path below the square. By evening, if the day unfolded properly, yesterday's stolen rice would become evidence. Evidence would become leverage. Leverage would become access. Access would become medicine. The pain waiting inside his root had not yet begun, but his plan already accounted for the fever after it. The observer's trace remained quiet. It would see a crowd preparing to laugh at a weak boy. It would not yet see the knife under the laughter. The steward called another name while Lin Fan waited. A broad-shouldered disciple stepped forward, face flushed with forced confidence. His friends murmured encouragement until Elder Gu's gaze cut them silent. The disciple placed his palm against the pillar and pushed too much chi too quickly. Red light burst up, reached the second vein, then splintered into uneven sparks. The steward frowned. Low-grade fire root. Impure. But it reached the second vein, the disciple said before fear caught up with his tongue. Elder Gu looked at him. The disciple went pale. It reached by force, Elder Gu said. A cracked bowl can hold water for one breath if you throw the water hard enough. It remains cracked. The disciple stepped down with his face burning hotter than his root had glowed. Lin Fan stored the phrase. Elder Gu liked analogies that humiliated while instructing. That habit could be used. Men who enjoyed sounding precise often followed their own phrasing into traps, because they disliked contradicting a judgment once spoken elegantly. Another name. Another low-grade result. The square grew more eager for Lin Fan's turn, not less. Every poor reading before him made the crowd hungrier for a target who had already been socially chosen. Anonymous weakness depressed them. Named weakness entertained them. Lin Fan allowed his eyes to pass once across the gathered disciples. Many would never matter. Some would die in outer missions within 2 years. Some would leave the sect and call themselves wandering cultivators while selling cheap talismans in border towns. Some would become clerks, guards, concubines, corpse collectors, failed pill assistants, or nameless bones in caves they entered because a steward promised extra rations. In his first life, he had hated them as if their laughter meant they were above him. Now he saw them more accurately. They were not above him. They were debris moving with the current. But debris could still cut the foot of a man walking barefoot. One did not hate it. One wore boots, or moved it into someone else's path. Today, he had neither boots nor strength. So he would use the current. Currents did not ask whether a hand was strong before carrying a blade downstream. They only required placement. The old path opened its mouth. He walked toward it without haste. The old path opened its mouth. He walked toward it without haste.